Hi and welcome! If this is your first video, my name is Caressa and welcome to yet another bookshelf unhaul. Today we're starting with Lubar, I don't know, and we will be going through to McCorkle. If you missed the last video, you may be a little bit confused why we jumped from D all the way to L, but basically this bookshelf needs to go downstairs and I need to empty it off. So we're just skipping ahead a little bit. We're gonna get this shelf done today, so let's just get into it. I am going to intuitively just grab this book. This is George R.R. Martin's The Ice Dragon. It's a special first edition with bonus poster on back of jacket. Cool, it's a dragon. Anyway, I am going to be getting rid of this book. That's why I grabbed it off the shelf first. Basically just because I haven't read any George R.R. Martin books. This is like sort of a companion book to A Song of Ice and Fire, which I believe is the Game of Thrones first book. Let me double check that. I have that backwards. The name of the book is The Game of Thrones and the series is called A Song of Ice and Fire. Anyway, I'm a little embarrassed that I bought this book to begin with. I have said for a long time that I am not going to read Game of Thrones. It's too dark, it's too gritty, it's too long, and honestly, I'm not sure that the series will ever end. But randomly, I will say a friend bought the whole series for $5 at Walmart, and I was like, that could be me. I could be buying the whole series for $5. But listen, I don't want to read it. So I'm ready to let it go. Someone will be very excited to find this. So that's book number 1. Okay, and we are going to jump back to the first book here, which is Sleeping Freshmen Never Lie by David Lubar. I've read several reviews about this, and it does sort of seem like a cross between Good Luck Charlie and Ned's Declassified Survival Guide. That may be overselling it. Those are two huge series. But there is elements of those series in this book. The main character in this is pretty nerdy, and it talks a lot about being tired, and I'm always tired. So this seems like a contemporary I'm interested in picking up. I'm gonna go ahead and keep it. I may change my mind round 2, but you know, we're in round 1. I'm gonna keep it. Next we have Pretty Crooked and Pretty Sly by Elisa Ludwig. These books are sort of a modern day Gossip Girl Robin Hood retelling. I've read about them and they seem sort of like spiritual successors to High Society and Uncommon Criminals. I read High Society and I really enjoyed it. The Robin Hood element of this book involves the main character taking from the rich, snobby, elite kids at school and giving it to those who are on scholarship and maybe don't have as much. Obviously that means that the more fortunate kids suspect the less fortunate kids of doing under the table stuff. The reviews say that it is just absurd, that the premise is ridiculous, the suspension of disbelief isn't enough to continue on as the stakes get higher and higher. But I think it sounds really cute and I actually think I would kind of enjoy it. So I'm gonna keep it for now. This is kind of an embarrassing book to have on my shelves. I will admit that. This is The Astonishing Adventures of Fanboy and Goth Girl, a novel by Barry Lyga. It's a little less embarrassing to be a fanboy or a fangirl these days than back when I bought this book. But I remember for a long time I was like, I really want to read this book, but I'm kind of embarrassed by the title. And I used to put like a book cover on it so people wouldn't see it on my shelf. Okay, so this book covers a fanboy who wants to make a graphic novel, who's dealing with all the rough parts of life, and a goth girl he meets. As much as it pains me to say this, I think I'm gonna go ahead and let this book go. The premise is really interesting to me. The sort of reviews on the back of the book are like awesome. They make me interested in this. And I kept this for years, even though I was a little bit embarrassed about it, just because I really wanted to read it. But I've read some reviews and a lot of people are saying that the goth girl is sort of a manic pixie dream girl. I'm not sure if that's like a perfect descriptor, but basically Goth Girl doesn't have any narrative purpose other than teaching Fanboy a lesson. There's a lot of poor reviews on it. And a lot of people who went into it saying, I love the title, that's why I picked up the book, I was interested in it, but it just didn't live up to the title. And, you know, that's enough for me to say, you know, I'm going to go ahead and let it go. I think someone else could enjoy it. Next we have Remembrance by Michelle Maddow. I have so much to say about this book. First of all, I have some bookmarks with this book. It's not for Remembrance, it's for like a different book she wrote. But this book was sort of inspired by Love Story by Taylor Swift. It is a wild ride. It sort of reminds me of Elixir by Hilary Duff. I don't know why I'm always like, hey, have you read this book? You might like this book, because that's just the way my brain works. And sort of the nature of life in general is you're always just connecting dots in your life together. It reminds me of Elixir, just sort of in the idea that there is this mysterious guy who shows up and, oh, I feel a strange attraction to him, and oh, but he might be bad for me. You know the type, very romance heavy. In this particular book, it turns out she is reincarnated and this boy is like her soulmate or whatever. I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. I love the idea of being so inspired by a song, especially a Taylor Swift song. I just think that's fun to write a book. And I have really like strong, favorable memories of reading this. And I also remember this book coming out in 2011 and then all these books coming out with masks on the cover after it. Like, they were all kind of, I'm not going to say they were copying because this was an indie release and I don't really think the publishing company works like that, but at very least this book was sort of ahead of the trend in that regard. I'm going to maybe this book, I have favorable memories about it. I think it's cute. I kind of like that it's in my collection. It is an indie book, but it's pretty romance heavy and I don't know that I would read it again. So for that reason and that reason alone, I am going to maybe it. The next book I have here is another one I'm going to get rid of, and it is a beautiful cover. It is Shatter Me by Tahereh Mafi. But this book I gave 3 out of 5 stars, and this sort of idea behind it is there's this girl and every time she touches someone, they die. It's sort of a classic dystopian. I would sort of put it in the realm of The Hunger Games, Divergent, things like that. Personally, I remember reading this book and saying it is so violent. I don't know why I felt that way. I mean, I read The Hunger Games and I was like, this is about relationships, it's not about violence. But for whatever reason, I just felt like this book was particularly violent. I wish I could say more about it. I don't really remember this book. I remember when I bought this book, I said, God bless cover redesigns, because it means beautiful covers like this go on sale. I'm not sure I still feel that way, because I like all my books to match. But I do appreciate a good book on sale. So this is just one of those books I fell in love with the cover and it just didn't work out. But I'm gonna pass it along. Okay, next we have my copy of Wicked. I don't think this is my original copy of Wicked, but I bought this edition specifically because the one with the musical pages in it was the edition I had back in middle school. I love the shit out of this book. Wicked is phenomenal. I read it in middle school and I don't think I've read it since then, but I do love the intricacies of the plot. I also have this really cute bookmark with the Wicked Witch on it, which obviously belongs in this book, retelling the story of the Wicked Witch from The Wizard of Oz, in case you don't know. Y'all know I am the biggest Oz fan. It's just natural that I love this book as well. This book is a much more adult take on Oz. It's very intricate. It's a little bit dark. It's not a book that I would recommend to everyone, but it is a book that I think is so powerful and so demonstrative of good literature. I'd love to reread it and see how it stands up now that I'm an adult. You know, weirdly, I actually do not like Wicked the musical. This is like revolutionary news, okay? In middle school, I listened to that soundtrack every single day. That and Rent, I was obsessed with. I am a huge musical fan, as most of you know, and Wicked was my jam. I mean, really, Wicked was the stuff. But I had never seen it before, just because there's not a public recording of Wicked. So in college, I went to New York with my grandma, and she said, you gotta see Wicked. You know, you're obsessed with it, you gotta see it. I've seen it, I loved it, you gotta see it. I sat like 3rd row back, and I was digging it. I mean, there was so much about that show that I loved, but I also walked away and I was like, I don't really understand this interpretation of Elphaba by the actress who is currently playing Elphaba. I thought I would like it better with Idina Menzel, but now I know that it's just not exactly what I expected out of Wicked. I think because I read the book and the book has a much darker tone, I was just really disappointed by how the play or the musical lacked some of the nuance of the book. I also don't love how they gave Elphaba like a happy ever after in the musical, because I get it. You know, your kids are coming to see it. It's too much for it to not be that way. But I think some of the tragedy of Wicked is important to understanding that story. Anyway, long story short, I don't love the musical Wicked. I love the musical soundtrack of Wicked, and I love the book Wicked, but the actual musical play, it's not my favorite. Next we have Son of a Witch, also by Gregory Maguire. This is book 2 in the Wicked series. I have tried many times to pick this book up. It's sort of about the son of Elphaba, and I can't get over the part where Elphaba is in a coma and she has a son. It seems immoral to me. It grosses me out. I can't really handle it. I think if I could get past that point and past some of the dark beginning, I think I would really enjoy this. So even though I've started this many times and never finished it, I feel like it's an important part of this collection, and I'm definitely going to keep it. Okay, next we have A Lion Among Men, which is volume 3 in the Wicked Years. This is actually a first edition that I got on sale. I believe this follows some of the other characters that we see in Oz, and I am definitely interested in reading this. I just haven't picked it up because I haven't read the second book yet. The second book's hard for me. It's possible that I have matured in the past 10 years and I will be able to get through the second book eventually, but Wicked is so important to me, I can't imagine getting rid of its companions or the rest of the series, so I'm very happy to keep this on my shelf. So next we have Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister by Gregory Maguire. I'm gonna keep most of these. You know, this is a Cinderella retelling. I'm sure it will be up my alley. You know, a little dark, but very intricate and well congealed, I guess. That's not the most attractive way to say what I'm trying to say. Interwoven, that's what I mean. Very interwoven, very well thought out. This is Four Stupid Cupids, also by Gregory Maguire. It is part of the Hamlet Chronicles. This is sort of his middle grade retelling, and I think it will be a lot of fun, probably not as dark, and, you know, I'm really interested in it. I just love Maguire. I mean, I've only read Wicked all the way through, but I'm going to keep his books until it's shown to me that his books are not my cup of tea. That's that. Next we have Lost. This might be sort of a retelling of A Christmas Carol, but this is more in the vein of an original series and not a retelling. Okay, let me breeze through these next two a little bit quicker. We have Mirror Mirror, which is of course a Snow White retelling. And finally we have a signed copy of After Alice, which is an Alice in Wonderland retelling. This is the one I'm most excited about. I am a super fan of Oz, and so Wicked was totally up my vein. But I also think I have read Alice in Wonderland more times than the average reader. So I think this will be very, very fun and something I will really love. So of course it's staying. Next we have Gamer Girl, which is by a different author. We've moved on from Gregory Maguire. This is Mari Mancusi's Gamer Girl. I gave this book 5 stars before I started reviewing books. This was one of the books that I love. Cute and fun. It's not super dark. It's not super deep. But I'm definitely going to keep this book because I really enjoyed it. I think I would reread it. Next we have The Big Wide Calm by Rich Marcello. This is a book that I won in a Goodreads giveaway, and I have yet to review or read it. So I am going to keep it because I want to review all the books I win on Goodreads. So next we have Click Here to Start by Dennis Markle. So this book follows 12-year-old Ted after his great uncle bequeaths him a video game that may lead to treasure. It's a combo of just like video game goodness and also puzzles. And that sounds really interesting to me. It seems super cute. It seems very middle grade. I am all about this. Next, I think we will get rid of some more books, but we have Wicked Lovely and Ink Exchange, which is by Melissa Marr. Okay, so this book is about fairies. So it seems kind of like romancy. I do love fae books. I think it's a lot of fun to read a darker fae book. But honestly, I'm kind of convinced I want to get rid of books, and I don't see myself picking these up with a romance-heavy element. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of these two. Oh, we're up to Life of Pi. Oh, here's the thing about Life of Pi. I am convinced that I should read this book. I'm not convinced that I want to read this book. And if I'm not going to pick it up, I don't want to keep it. I'm going to let it go, okay? Maybe one day I'll read it, but I don't see that day being anytime soon, so I'm gonna get rid of this copy. Okay, next we have The In-Games by T. Michael Martin. This is T. Michael Martin's debut novel, and I am so interested in the author. I'm also pretty sure I follow T. Michael Martin on YouTube. Yes, he's a friend of Hank Green, I believe, or in the past was. An acquaintance at very least. This book seems kind of dark. It is about two kids who are fighting in the rural mountains of West Virginia. You know, all things combined, a lot of people have compared this to the Hunger Games, which is interesting to me, because I'm not sure it's like that. I know this is a little dark, and it's like probably not it probably won't be one of my favorite books. But the author lives in West Virginia. I follow him on YouTube. He knows Hank Green. I'm gonna go ahead and keep this on my shelf because I want to read it eventually. Apparently In-Games is a zombie book. I'm really not a zombie girl. I really shouldn't keep that book, but I want to try and read it. I want to try and read it before I get rid of it. Next we have Since You've Been Gone by Morgan Madison. Since you've been gone, yeah. For the most part, people say this book has everything. It has hijinks, it has a road trip, it has a kiss in the rain. This book has almost universally positive reviews. This book sounds great. It really does sound great. But it's almost 500 pages, and it's just that I have so many other books I would go to before this book that I think until I get through a good portion of my bookshelf, I'm gonna go ahead and let this book go. No, I'm indecisive. I'm gonna maybe it. It sounds great. It sounds really great. It sounds like something I would enjoy, something I would give 4 or 5 stars. I just don't know that it's something I would pick up in my current state of my bookshelves. You know, I have so many contemporaries I am more interested in. It has over 4 stars on Goodreads. That's like really good. I'm gonna maybe it, and you guys tell me what you think, okay? I just need some confirmation that I'm not making a bad decision here. Last on the shelf, we have The Secret of Spruce Knoll by Heather McCorkle. I have lots of swag associated with this, and it is signed to me. There are a lot of positive reviews for this book. I won it in a giveaway. I want to give it a shot. I think I am gonna maybe this book. Even though we didn't do particularly well, we did get rid of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 books. Anyway, thanks so much for joining me today. If you want to see more from me, I have a playlist of everything I've done, as well as a playlist of me unhauling books. It is the great purge of 2022. I'll see you next time. Bye.